The dust never stopped falling on 7. It covered everything: the mining equipment, the small houses where humans lived, and the tall black towers where they ruled. Park had lived on this world for 3 years, and she still was not used to the red dust that filled her lungs every morning. She stood in her small office looking at documents on her screen. The missing shipment. 3 cargo containers of processed ore vanished somewhere between the mining pits and the orbital station. They blamed her people. They always blamed her people. Was the only human liaison on 7. Her job was to keep peace between the 300 human colonists and their overlords. It was not an easy job. There were tall reptilian creatures with scales the color of dried blood. They had conquered this world long before humans arrived, and they never let anyone forget it. Her communicator beeped. A message from Commander, who controlled everything on 7. He wanted to see her. Now. She walked through the dusty streets toward the central plaza. Human workers stopped to look at her. Their eyes held fear. Everyone knew about the missing shipment. Everyone knew they needed someone to punish. Caught up with her near the plaza entrance. He was a mining engineer, tall and quiet, with kind eyes that always seemed worried these days. He had been her partner for 2 years now. "Don't go," he said. "Something feels wrong." "I have to," replied. "If I don't, they will pick someone else, someone who cannot defend themselves." She touched his face gently and walked into the plaza. Commander waited on a raised platform. He was larger than most, his scales darker, his yellow eyes colder. Behind him stood 20 soldiers in black armor. Before him knelt 3 human workers, their hands bound. "Lieutenant Park," said. His voice was like stones grinding together. "You come to answer for your people's crimes." "There was no crime," said. She kept her voice calm and steady. "I have evidence. Pirates attacked the transport ship. The shipment was stolen before it reached the orbital station. Our people had nothing to do with it." She held up a data tablet showing the pirate attack. Sensor readings, communication logs, everything she had gathered over the past week. Did not look at it. He simply knocked it from her hand. "Lies," he said, "human lies." "It is the truth." "The truth is what I say it is." Stepped down from the platform and walked toward her. "Humans have been on this world for 5 years. In that time you have caused nothing but problems. You steal, you lie, you forget your place. We work harder than anyone. We follow every rule. We have done nothing wrong." His mouth stretched into something like a smile. It showed all his sharp teeth. "Today, you will learn your place." 2 soldiers grabbed his arms. She tried to fight, but they were too strong. They forced her to her knees on the hard stone ground. Around the plaza, more humans had gathered, pushed through the crowd shouting her name. Soldiers blocked his path. "This human speaks for her people," announced loudly. "So her people will watch as she learns the lesson." He pulled a ceremonial blade from his belt. It was old and curved, with strange symbols carved into the metal. A weapon used for punishment, not battle. "Understood then." Her heart turned to ice. "You cannot do this," she said. "The coalition will." "The coalition will do nothing." Grabbed her right arm and stretched it out over a stone block. "They need our trade agreements. They need our ore. They will sacrifice one human hand for peace." He was right, knew he was right. The coalition had always chosen politics over people. "Remember this moment," said to the crowd. "Remember what happens when humans forget their place." The blade came down. Screamed, pain exploded through her body, white and blinding. She looked down and saw her hand lying on the stone, separated from her arm. Blood poured from the wound, red and real. Somewhere far away she heard screaming. She heard the crowd crying out. She heard laughing. "Broadcast this," ordered his soldiers. "Send it to every human world, let them see." Fell forward. The stone was cold against her face. The dust was in her mouth, in her eyes. Everything was getting dark. But before the darkness took her, she made a promise. Not to the crowd, not even to herself. She made a promise to the hand lying on the stone, still wearing the ring her mother had given her. She would come back, she would make them pay, every single one. Broke through the soldiers and caught her before she hit the ground. He lifted her in his arms and ran toward the medical building. Soldiers watched but did not stop him. They had their message. They had their victory. The footage spread across 12 star systems that night. Humans everywhere watched in horror as one of their own was mutilated for a crime she did not commit. The coalition issued a statement expressing deep concern, but took no action. Lay in the medical bay for 3 days, floating between life and death. The doctors saved her life but could not save her hand. When she finally opened her eyes was there. He had not left her side. "They will pay," she whispered. Took her remaining hand and held it tight. "Yes," he said, "they will." Something had died in that day in the plaza, but something else had been born, something cold and patient and utterly without mercy. They had created a monster, and they did not even know it yet. 6 months passed, stood in a dark laboratory on Earth's orbital station, Hammer 3. Rain fell against the windows even though they were in space. The station had weather systems to make humans feel at home. Today, the rain matched her mood. Dr. Bora worked at a metal table covered with wires, circuits, and pieces of strange metal. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but her hands moved with perfect precision. "The coalition calls me a monster," Bora said without looking up. "They say my weapons are too cruel, too effective." She laughed bitterly. "They threw me out because I made things that actually worked." "Can you help me?" asked. Bora finally looked at her. She studied the empty space where his hand used to be, wrapped in clean bandages. "I watched the footage," Bora said quietly. "That commander, he enjoyed it." "Yes. My brother died on a prison world. They worked him to death in their minds. He was 19 years old." Bora set down her tools. "I do not want money. I want you to make them remember my brother's name. His name was—" "I will," promised. They shook hands, Bora's right hand holding his left. The work began. Bora designed something that had never existed before. Not a simple prosthetic that looked like a normal hand. This was a weapon hidden inside human skin. The arm was made of special metal, light and strong. Inside it lived a blade that could cut through anything: armor, steel walls, even starship hulls. The edge was only 1 molecule thick, sharper than anything in the known galaxy. But the blade was only part of it. Bora connected the arm directly to his brain through tiny wires. When she thought about moving her fingers, the arm moved. When she thought about fighting, the arm became faster than her old hand had ever been. The surgery took 12 hours, felt everything. Bora had warned her that pain blockers would interfere with the neural connections. So lay on the table and screamed while Bora cut into her arm and attached wires to her nerves. When it was over, looked at her new arm. It looked almost real. The skin was artificial but warm. The fingers moved smoothly. Only when she looked closely could she see the tiny seams where the blade would emerge. "Think about anger," Bora said. Thought about the plaza, about her hand lying on cold stone. The blade shot out from her forearm, gleaming silver in the laboratory light. It hummed with energy. "Good," Bora smiled. "Now you need to learn how to use it." His old friend Han arrived the next week. They had trained together in the military academy years ago, before chose diplomacy and chose special forces. Was short and muscular, with scars on her arms and a face that rarely smiled. "You want revenge," said. They stood in an empty training room. "Revenge is a road that goes only one direction, no turning back." "I know," said. "Is a trained warrior. His guards are professional soldiers. You were a diplomat, you talked to people, you read documents," crossed her arms. "Why do you think you can fight them?" "Because I have nothing left to lose." Studied her for a long moment, Then she nodded. "Show me your arm." Extended the blade. It caught the light like frozen lightning. "Interesting," said, "but a weapon is nothing without skill. We have a lot of work to do." They trained every day for 4 months, taught how to move, how to strike, how to kill quickly and quietly. The neural interface in his arm learned from each session, becoming faster, more precise. Broke 3 training dummies in the first week. She broke's nose in the second month. By the 4th month, even could not beat her in practice fights. "The arm is changing you," observed one evening. They sat in the station's small garden drinking tea. "You are becoming something different. Something dangerous. Something necessary." Looked at her old friend with something like sadness. "The galaxy is full of creatures who hurt humans because they think we are weak. Maybe we need someone like you." Meanwhile had not been resting. He had stayed on 7, pretending to be a broken man who had accepted defeat. In truth, he was gathering information. He sent encrypted messages to every week, was running a slave operation. Human colonists who caused problems disappeared in the night. They were sent to secret mining pits deeper in space, worked until they died. The coalition knew. They had reports, evidence, witness statements. They did nothing because they feared war with the consortium. Read each message in silence. The anger inside her grew colder and harder, like steel being forged in ice. "I am not just going back for myself," she told Bora one night. "There are people who need help, people who have no one else." Bora nodded. She was adding final improvements to his arm, a shield generator, emergency medical systems, a communications link that could not be traced. "Would have liked you," Bora said quietly. "He always believed one person could change things." Flexed her artificial fingers. The blade whispered out and back, too fast for human eyes to follow. Let us find out if he was right. The next morning, Lieutenant Park officially died. A medical report stated that she had passed away from complications related to her injuries. A small funeral was held. Coalition officials sent flowers and empty words. A week later, a ghost began her journey back to 7. The dust storm had been raging for 3 days when arrived on 7. Red clouds covered the sky and turned day into night. Sensors could not see through such storms. It was the perfect time for a ghost to walk. Her small ship landed in a dead valley 20 kilometers from the main colony. She wore black clothes that blended with shadows and a mask that covered her face. She carried no identification, no rank insignia, nothing that connected her to her old life. She was no one now, no one but death itself. The journey to the colony took 6 hours on foot, moved through the storm like a wild animal, patient and silent. The dust stung her eyes and filled her lungs, but she did not stop. She had breathed this dust for 3 years. It was almost like coming home. His voice crackled in her ear through the hidden communicator. "I have accessed their security systems," he said. "I can see you on the outer sensors. Turn left at the next rock formation. There is a drainage tunnel that leads under the walls." "How many guards?" 2 at the tunnel entrance. 4 more inside the walls. Has increased security since you left. Since they cut off my hand, thought. They were afraid someone might come for revenge. They were right to be afraid. She found the tunnel entrance hidden behind fallen rocks. 2 guards stood watch, their yellow eyes scanning the darkness. They wore light armor and carried energy rifles. Standard patrol soldiers, not the elite ones. Moved closer, staying low. The storm covered any sound she made. She was 3 meters away when the first guard turned and saw her. His eyes went wide. He opened his mouth to shout. He never made a sound. The blade extended from his arm in a flash of silver. It passed through his neck before he could breathe. His partner turned at the movement but was already there. Her blade cut through his rifle, then his armor, then him. Both guards fell to the ground. The whole fight had taken 4 seconds. stepped over their bodies, and entered the tunnel. The drainage system ran beneath the entire colony. It was old and dirty, filled with water that smelled of chemicals from the mining operations. Walked through it for an hour, guided by voice in her ear. "The slave pits are below the eastern compound," said. 37 humans are held there. The guards change shift in 20 minutes. That is your window." "What about?" "He is in the main hall. Tonight is a celebration, the anniversary of what he calls the pacification of the colony. All the important are there, eating and drinking and laughing at humans." His artificial hand tightened into a fist. The metal creaked quietly. "First the slaves," she said, "then." She found the entrance to the slave pits behind a locked door. 2 guards stood inside. They died as quickly as the first ones. The slaves were held in metal cages, 37 humans in a space meant for 10. They were thin and dirty and covered in scars. When they saw, they shrank back in fear. "I am human," whispered, pulling down her mask. "I am here to help you." An old man crawled forward. His hands were bent from years of hard work in the mines. "You," he breathed, "you are the woman from the plaza, the one they—" "Yes," began cutting through the cage locks. Her blade passed through the metal like it was made of paper. "Can you walk, all of you?" "We can run if it means freedom," a young woman said. Her eyes burned with hope for the first time in years. "Good, follow the tunnel system north. There is a ship waiting in the valley. A woman named will take you somewhere safe." "What about you?" the old man asked. "Look toward the main compound, where lights glowed through the dust storm, where was celebrating his power over humans. I have something to finish." She led the slaves to the tunnel entrance and watched them disappear into the darkness. His voice came through the communicator. "I see them on sensors. I am moving to pick them up. Be careful." "I am done being careful." She turned and walked toward the main hall. The guards outside never saw her coming. The guards inside saw her for half a second before they died. She moved through the compound like a shadow made of blades, and everywhere she went, bodies fell. The door to the main hall was made of heavy wood carved with symbols of power. Kicked it open. Inside, 50 officers sat at long tables covered with food and drink. Slaves, human slaves, served them in silence. At the head of the longest table sat Commander, wearing ceremonial armor decorated with gold. Everyone turned to look at the door. For a moment there was only silence. They stared at this strange human woman in black clothes, with a face they almost recognized. Then laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "A human has wandered into the wrong room," he said. "Take her away. Perhaps she can replace one of the tired servants." 2 guards moved toward. She extended her blade. The silver metal caught the light of 100 candles. 1 guard stopped. The other kept coming. He died standing up. Now the silence was different. Now it was filled with fear. Walked towards table. Officers scrambled out of her way. No one tried to stop her. "Do you remember me?" she asked. His yellow eyes narrowed. He looked at her face, her body, her arm. The arm that gleamed with hidden metal beneath artificial skin. Understanding came slowly. When it arrived, his scales turned pale. "You," he whispered, "you are dead." "You took something from me," said quietly. Her voice was calm as still water, cold as deep space. "I have come to collect interest." She raised her blade. The reckoning had begun. Commander rose from his chair like a mountain rising from the sea. He was the largest in the room, his scales dark and thick, his muscles built from decades of combat. He pulled his ceremonial sword from its sheath, the same curved blade he had used to take's hand. "You should have stayed dead," he growled. "I will finish what I started." He attacked first. The blade swung in a wide arc aimed at its neck. It was fast enough to kill any normal human. Was no longer normal. Her neural interface saw the attack coming before muscles finished moving. Her body shifted sideways. The blade passed through empty air. Her own sword cut a line across his arm, splitting the golden armor like wet cloth. Roared and stumbled back. Green blood dripped from his wound. His officers watched in shocked silence. "What are you?" demanded. "I am what you made me." She attacked again. Her blade was a silver blur, striking faster than eyes could follow. Blocked once, twice, 3 times, then her sword found his shoulder. More green blood sprayed across the floor. Around the room, some officers finally found their courage. 3 of them drew weapons and charged from different directions. She did not even look at them. Her free hand threw a small device that exploded in a flash of bright light. The 3 officers screamed and grabbed their eyes. By the time their vision returned, 2 of them were dead and the 3rd was crawling away, missing a leg. Used the distraction to attack. His blade came down hard, aiming to split in half. She raised her artificial arm. The sword struck metal and stopped dead. Sparks flew into the air. That arm breathed, "It is not possible." Many things are possible when you have nothing left to lose. Pushed forward, throwing off balance. Her blade moved 3 times, left shoulder, right thigh, across his chest. Each cut was precise, designed to hurt but not to kill, not yet. Fell to his knees. His sword clattered to the ground. He tried to reach for it but kicked it away. "You took my hand before 300 humans," she said. "You wanted to teach them a lesson. You wanted them to learn their place." She grabbed his right wrist and stretched his arm out over the table. Plates and glasses scattered to the floor. Eyes went wide as he understood what was about to happen. "Please," he whispered. "I'm a commander. I am important. The consortium will." "The consortium will do nothing." His voice was cold as ice. "They will sacrifice 1 hand for peace." The blade came down. Screamed. It was a high, terrible sound that echoed off the walls. His hand fell onto the table, still twitching. Green blood poured from the wound, staining the white tablecloth. But was not finished. "You did not stop at 1 hand," she said. "You sent humans to slave pits. You worked them to death. You laughed while they suffered." The blade came down again. His other hand joined the first. Now he was truly screaming, a broken creature on his knees, bleeding from wounds that would never fully heal. His officers watched in horror. None of them moved to help him. Turned to face the room. 50 officers, the most powerful people on 7, trembled before a single human woman. "Broadcast this," she commanded. "Send it across 12 systems. Let everyone see what happens when you touch humanity." One officer fumbled with a recording device. His hand shook so badly he could barely hold it. Did not kill. She left him alive, handless and humiliated, crying on the floor of his own banquet hall. A living message to every who had ever hurt a human. She walked toward the door. "Stop her," someone finally shouted. 17 officers drew their weapons and moved to block her path. They were trained warriors, elite soldiers of the consortium. They thought their numbers gave them safety. They were wrong. Moved through them like fire through dry grass. Her blade sang its deadly song, cutting through armor and flesh without slowing down. One officer managed to hit her with his blade, opening a deep cut across her ribs. Another burned her shoulder with an energy weapon. She did not stop. She could not stop. There was no room for weakness now. In 4 minutes it was over. 17 bodies lay on the floor and stood among them, covered in green and red blood, breathing hard. "Tell them," she said to the surviving officers. "Tell them what happened here tonight. Tell them that humans are not slaves. We are not servants. We are not weak." She kicked open a window and disappeared into the dust storm. Outside the compound, chaos had erupted, had opened the armory during the fight. Human colonists poured through the streets carrying weapons for the first time in 5 years. They had watched the broadcast from the banquet hall. They had seen fall. They had seen that their masters could bleed. Now they fought back. The battle lasted until dawn. When the red sun rose through the settling dust, 7 belonged to its people. Soldiers who surrendered were locked in the same cages where they had kept human slaves. Those who did not surrender died in the streets. Watched from a rooftop as human flags rose over the black towers. Found her there, sitting against a wall while Bora, who had come on ship, bandaged her wounds. "You are hurt," said. "I will survive." "What happens now?" Looked at the celebrating crowds below. Children laughed and ran through the streets for the first time in years. Old workers cried and hugged each other. A world had been reborn. "Now we see if anyone else wants to make humans kneel," she said quietly. "And if they do, we show them what happened here." Sat down beside her and took her hand, her real hand, the one that remained. "The consortium will respond," he said. "They have armies, fleets. They will want revenge." Smiled for the first time in 6 months. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had looked into darkness and found something waiting there. "Good," she said. "Let them come." 3 years passed like water over stones. The galaxy changed, slowly at first, then faster than anyone expected. The consortium never recovered from 7. The footage of Commander, handless, crying, broken, spread across every human world like wildfire. People who had bowed their heads for generations suddenly looked up. They remembered that they had hands too, and those hands could become fists. Uprisings began on a dozen colony worlds. Miners refused to work. Servants refused to serve. When the consortium sent soldiers to restore order, they found humans waiting with weapons and fierce eyes. The masters discovered that slaves who have nothing left to lose are the most dangerous creatures in the universe. The coalition finally had to act. Public pressure forced them to sign new treaties, to demand rights for humans living under alien rule. Politicians who had ignored suffering for years suddenly gave speeches about justice and equality. They pretended they had cared all along. Watched it all from far away. She had never returned to coalition space after 7. She was still officially dead, and she preferred it that way. Dead women did not have to attend ceremonies or shake hands with politicians who had once abandoned her. She had a ship now. It was small and fast, painted black like the space between stars. She called it after Bora's brother who died in a mine. It seemed right to carry his name into battle. Her crew was small but loyal, had left his engineering career to follow her. He ran the ship's systems and gathered intelligence from his network of contacts across the galaxy. Had come to, admitting that she was wrong about revenge. Sometimes it was not the end but the beginning of something bigger. And Bora kept working, improving his arm with each new mission, making it faster and stronger and deadlier. They traveled from world to world, finding places where humans suffered under alien cruelty. Sometimes they rescued slaves. Sometimes they delivered weapons to resistance movements. Sometimes they did darker work, work that made even uncomfortable. Word spread, stories grew. Humans whispered about a woman who appeared from nowhere, whose arm became a sword, who showed no mercy to those who hurt her people. They called her many names. The one-armed sword, the hand that returns, the ghost of 7. Did not care about names, she cared about results. One evening, her ship floated in orbit around a small moon while repaired damage from their latest mission. Sat alone in the observation room, watching stars drift past the window. Her artificial arm lay open on the table beside her. Bora was adjusting something inside it. "The new blade is installed," Bora said. "This one can cut through ship armor. Not that I expect you to fight any ships by hand. You never know." Bora closed the arm and connected it back to shoulder. The neural interface sparked to life, and suddenly could feel her fingers again. "Can I ask you something?" Bora said. "In 3 years you have freed thousands of humans. You have destroyed consortium outposts. You have changed the galaxy, but I have never seen you smile. Not really. Looked at her arm, at the seamless metal and artificial skin that had become part of her body. Joy feels like something from another life, she admitted. I remember being happy once, on 7 before everything made me laugh. I had friends. I believed the galaxy could be fair if we just followed the rules. And now I know the truth. The galaxy is not fair, it never was. The strong take from the weak and they will always take until someone stops them. Flexed her fingers, watching the metal move beneath fake skin. I am not happy, but I am useful. Maybe that is enough. Bora did not answer. There was nothing to say. A week later, a coalition envoy found them. He was a nervous man in an expensive suit, sweating despite the cold of space. He had been searching for months. The government wants to thank you, he said, sitting in the ship's small meeting room. You have done more for human rights than decades of diplomacy. They want to recognize your service, give you citizenship again, a position, whatever you want. Sat across from him, her arms crossed, her face showing nothing. I did not do it for them. Then who? For every human who was told to kneel and accept it. For every slave who died in alien mines. For every family who lost someone while politicians wrote speeches about patience and diplomacy. Leaned forward. I did it because no one else would. The envoy swallowed nervously. What do you want then? Name anything. Was quiet for a long moment. She looked at her crew, working at a console, cleaning her weapons, Bora reading technical documents. Her family now, the only family she needed. There are other worlds, she said finally. Other places where humans suffer, other commanders who think they can hurt us without consequences. Yes, but the new treaties. Treaties are paper. Paper does not stop cruelty. Paper does not free slaves. Stood up. Tell the coalition that I do not want recognition. I want them to stay out of my way. The envoy opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He had heard the stories about this woman. He had seen the footage from 7. He was not brave enough to push further. I will deliver your message, he said quietly and left. Walked to the observation window. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, each one possibly circling worlds where her people struggled and suffered. Came to stand beside her. You could have stopped, he said. After 7, after everything, you could have disappeared, found peace somewhere. Could I? Looked at her artificial hand, at the weapon hidden beneath human skin. I am not the person who could do that. Not anymore. Maybe that person died in the plaza with her hand lying on the stone. Then who are you now? Thought about the question. She thought about the slave she had freed last week, a child who had never seen sunshine until broke her cage. She thought about the governor who had begged for mercy before she took his head. She thought about the human colonists on distant worlds who whispered her name like a prayer. I am what they need me to be, she said finally. A warning, a promise, a sword for those who have no sword. She turned away from the window and walked toward the bridge. Set course for the outer rim, she told. I have heard reports of humans going missing near a consortium mining station. Smiled her rare smile, another nest of monsters. Another lesson to teach. The ship turned toward the darkness between stars. The legend continued, written in blood and freedom, carrying hope to the hopeless and terror to the cruel. Somewhere on a broken world called 7, a handless commander still woke screaming from nightmares about a woman with silver in her arm and ice in her eyes. He would never stop screaming. And would never stop hunting.